Welcome to this, I almost called it the silent flute, Meg. It was a behavior code. This is a special behavior code episode with Johnny Freedom Ranger. This guy, if you ever saw, a video on like YouTube or whatever, or Facebook, of some person or usually a guy that was telling off a cop. Like a cop was like, put your hands here, you're under arrest, or pull over or whatever. And the guy behind the camera was like, well, this case of Arbor versus Michigan said, confirm the right for me to have a gun in a public space or whatever. And just cite all these cases and all of the laws and be like, officer, you don't actually know the law. Like, this is the law. Check with your supervisor. Actually, I don't have to give you my license. Actually, this, actually that. And the person tells off the cop, basically, with their intelligence and skill. Okay? So Johnny Freedom Ranger here, who's my guest on the show today, he did this. And what he's doing is he collects signatures. It's very, like they wrote about this in the Declaration of Independence. They wrote about this in the Constitution. The word petition is in there. Like, I'm a yoga instructor. Yoga and instructor are not in the Constitution, right? But petition or collect signatures is. So that's pretty rad. That's your job. That's what you do. And you, with your words, are able to repel the coercive monopoly of the states and the coercive force of a cop with your words. That's a superpower, man. That's a superpower. Like, it's so cool. So here he is, Johnny Freedom Ranger. What's going on with you, brother?
Hey, man. Feeling really good, especially after that interaction with that other petitioner, Brian, earlier. Actually, fun fact, he's actually one of the petitioners. He's a very liberal petitioner, but he's very good at it. So a lot of the stuff I know, I've actually learned from him.
Well, like what?
Well, partially dealing with the cops and the first few years, the first people I learned from, they were more like very aggressive and like they would get up into people's faces. And that was never really my style because it was more like a kind of like a coercive way of petitioning.
Okay.
Right? Without really having skill behind the words.
Sure. And what that would look like as soon as you say that, I think of seducing a woman and a kind of overbearing presence you would have on her, like not coercing her, not forcing her at all, but in a way pressuring her to do something she doesn't want to do. And it is, if you didn't speak the language and you were looking at this man and woman interacting, is it would look like one was threatening force and the other one was succumbing to the threat of force. Like if I went out here and like stalked one of these chickens or whatever, and you saw the chicken like do one of those, but I'm not hurting the chicken, and I never have. I've never slapped it or thrown it or anything. But anyway, most aggressive people are liberal. That's funny. I don't know. Maybe. So please continue. Yeah, you learned a lot from the guy about how to handle cops.
A little bit, and he is actually one of the highest producers in the industry. So I did spend some time working with him or just watching him do it. And his way is just very much just bringing the people to him versus running up to the people, and forcing the board in their hands,
Nice.
And he's very good at it.
Which is the opposite.
Very liberal also. Say again?
It's the opposite of what he just did here on the show.
Yeah.
He was trying to rope me into an argument with him, but he was trying to rope me into his words about the subject. And ethically, he came on and did all this stuff. So we had a script of how he bombards people with, but if you don't buy into his rhythm and his tone and his frame of how he's framing the conversation, then now the only thing, if I had talked calmer, slower, deeper pitch, I might have been able to, but I was interested in repelling the guy. So what happened is what was meant to happen. Ray, what's up? Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, the fact that he couldn't answer the source, it's just pictures. I mean, I got pictures too, so we're not going to throw pictures at each other, right? And so there's that. Okay, so Johnny Freedom. So what you do is you're recalling Gavin Newsome, and why are you doing that? You're going around and collecting signatures and recalling to get the governor of California recalled. What are some reasons that this is like a really important job?
So kind of like a story, small one. I've been doing this for about 2 years, and a lot of times I've only, like half the time at least, there will be liberal petitions, and I fucking hated working them. And
wow.
like I convinced myself to work them anyways because it was just to put it on the ballot, right?
Yeah.
But so this year was like one of those leveling up moments in my like petitioning where I went from like a average amateur to like fucking I can fucking blow almost like most even top producers out of the water.
Yeah.
If I'm out in the field.
And measured by signatures.
Yeah, I've got, and part of that was, you know, when I learned a little bit from Brian, the guy who was fucking up the podcast.
Have you ever signed something like somebody asked you for, you know, legalize marijuana or something, whatever? Did you ever do it? You did? No one's ever gotten me to do it. I've heard of those people. I just refuse.
Yeah.
So Johnny's the kind of guy that, if I didn't know him, would walk up to me in a way that wouldn't repel me enough, that would entice me in the end to just sign it. But it was attractive. So however he's now on the podcast, given that context, he communicates in a way, it would be like watching me teach yoga. I'm not that aggressive when I teach yoga. You would hear a different sound come out of me that makes everybody calm down. It's like I hypnotize everyone to calm down. You wouldn't know that side of me yet, but it'll come out. Anyway, so that's who he is. I just wanted to put that out there. And I also wanted to say that no one's ever convinced me to sign anything. But Johnny's never asked me. If he did, I'd sign it.
Yeah, I would say I work on people because I'll work at a store for a week, and there's certain people that they'll sign right away. They're like the cream on the crop. I take that off first. And then there's those people that are like, oh, I'm in a hurry, or like, even like they're like really grumpy. But I actually like that when they're really grumpy because then like I give them the reaction that they totally didn't expect. Like they'll like be rude, but then I'll be like, in a way, I'll be like, kind of like with the cop, I'm like rejecting their rudeness, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, but if you want to come back, you're always invited back. But you know, I try to like put that in like the words that I pitch, you know. And so that's kind of, I would say especially for the recall of Newsom, what's been very interesting because, you know, black voters are supposedly not very conservative. Mostly black women are the people, the ones that come back.
Let me ask you. That's really interesting because actually that's super interesting. Now you just opened up a whole new thread. Man, I'll let you get that sentence out. That's really interesting. So black women are, in your experience, more likely to come back with a change of heart, a change of mind. And that's very interesting. I want to know, I want to get back to why recall Gavin Newsom. Why is this important?
Yeah. Okay, so Gavin Newsom, the main reasons why I'm volunteering for this campaign. I'm not even getting paid for this petition.
Oh, wow.
And I'm actually, I'm one of the few petitioners that's actually making sure they're signing in the right box, the right county. And I'm like actually behind this. You know what I mean? Like I'm fully fucking behind this. Like I'm using all the learning I've made over the last few years. And I'm like, although it's not paying, it's the first one I'm running. Like it's the top one. And I have an $8 petition. It's paying me $8 a signature. I'm running that second. Damn. I could be running that first.
You could be.
You know?
So why Gavin Newsom? Why are you recalling Gavin Newsom? Why is this important?
Well, because he wants to run for president. He already has his website set up and everything. And if we can recall him from government, that would totally destroy his presidential run and his confidence, I believe.
Why is that?
Well, okay, so here's some of the things he's done. For example, during the shutdown, when he shut down the entire state of California, like restaurants, wineries, his winery stayed open. Then also, he's backing a proposal to raise property taxes for like all these commercial businesses, which is actually going to affect apartment buildings, and then raise rents. And like, you know, things like that. And he's backing that, although he just bought a house, which he got gifted supposedly, so he doesn't have to pay taxes.
So he wants to rent to go up. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, for like when they raise the property taxes on commercial businesses, it's going to affect apartment buildings, complexes.
And they want to, okay, so you should recall Newsom because he wants to raise property taxes.
Then he's already raised, I think, the gas tax, I believe, like 3 or 4 times.
So he keeps raising taxes. So you want to recall
every time
he keeps raising taxes.
Yeah, and the gas tax money was supposed to go towards the roads, which was the pitch. Like Prop 6 in 2018 was on the ballot. And they fucked with the title. The Democrats fucked with the title. The title was originally repeal the gas tax, but they wrote eliminates funding for certain roads and bridge construction. And so people were super confused.
Okay.
And
so he raises taxes, and then the money doesn't go to the roads that he said it would go to.
Yeah. So he ended the
Newsom?
bullet train from LA to San Francisco.
Okay. Wow.
But he started a new train from San Francisco to Sacramento, and his uncle is the one who got the contract.
There's corruption, you're saying. So is there any other examples of something, what do you call it, that is, not based on merit, it's, there's a word for it, when it's based on like allegiance versus merit.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't know what the word is.
so he funnels government business to family over merit, so it's,
yeah.
So,
also, he's used billions of dollars, I think it's $50 billion, to sue President Trump, over, personal political.
50 billion? 50 billion or 50 million?
Billion.
So where does that billion come from? The California taxes or what?
Yeah.
Really? Okay, so and to sue, okay. So misuse of government funds and a complete personal agenda and raising taxes. So yeah, that doesn't sound very good. Okay, so here you are petitioning, and your video of how with your words repelled a cop. We should probably play it, actually. Do you have what I mean, could we play it on the show? Let's see. You've probably seen this video like 100 times at this point, right?
Yeah.
All right, we don't have to watch it then. But so with your words, you repel a cop that comes and says, you can't get signatures here. You're outside of a store and you got to go. And you're like, well, actually, according to this and that, well, actually, you don't know what you're talking about. Actually, go get your supervisor. Actually, I'm going to stay here. Actually. And in your way, he just fucking walks away. And what happened? Did he come back with a supervisor or did he just go away?
Well, I guess he called a supervisor and then he came back. He was like, oh, yeah, I guess, yeah, you were right. You have the right to be here.
I wish you did that part. Right?
But he tried to push his you could tell his ego was a little hurt because he was like, yeah, he had to admit he lost, but then he was like, if you could do me a favor though and move the table over there. So you wanted me to move the table over where nobody's walking by me.
Why would I was
like, no, I'll move it a little bit. And I only moved it like a foot.
Yeah, man, because why would I do you a favor? What do you mean do you a favor? You're using your force, your government force to put me in a position where if I say no, I don't want to, that I'm somehow resisting. No, man, you're kind of complicating the situation. So that was perfect, Johnny, what you did, moving that table just an inch. So, all right, so super cool. So you got into petitioning, and the skill of petitioning definitely takes being sharp on your feet, being comfortable in the conflict, and being persistent. What are some other qualities that a petitioner, because what's happened is you working here in California have funded 4 or 5 or maybe more of my friends literally to come to California and to made a few $1,000s or more, some less, and collecting signatures. What are some skills that they needed to be able to do that, or some talent?
Really just being able to say, really just being able to engage people and, not give up after 10 people told you to F yourself, even if that did happen, without getting into arguments or, extensive debates, because really the goal in petitioning is you want to keep the interaction as short as possible, because let's say, okay, there's one person walking from the parking lot and then there's other people walking, right? if you were to like debate with that one person for 5 minutes, which some petitioners do, average petitioners, then you're wasting all the time where those other 10 people are walking past that maybe all of them would have signed. So you try to keep it as short as possible. And just, like, as soon as I notice someone is not going to sign or they're like being resistant or whatever, I just like totally go right to the next person.
Man, as this is a second example of as you're talking, I'm thinking about women, and I'm like, yeah, as soon as resistance comes up, it's just like, how long do I have to tolerate this? There's so much opportunity lost. There's so much opportunity lost. I had so much time, and the more I'm debating with this one about, hey, I'm going to be with other women, or hey, what are you doing wearing it like that, or hey, this or hey, that, or you don't communicate enough, or whatever. And it's just like, what the fuck? Like, why do you want to go over there? So, you go into, how many people do you think you've approached in your petitioning?
Oh, man, probably over 100,000.
100,000 people?
Yeah.
Wow. And that means interacting, even if it's just 1%, that would be 1,000 people, strangers.
Yeah.
And it's definitely more than 1%. It's probably like 20, 30%.
Probably more, to be honest.
Man, that's 20 or 30,000, 40,000 people. Shit.
I've probably had.
It muted there. What did you say?
I've probably had more than. Let's think. Over all the campaigns, probably had at least. Well, I wanted to say 50,000, but probably less than that. Probably more like 10 to 20,000 people have signed my petition for me.
Wow. So that's definitely, you can just reverse engineer for like, how many people do I need to talk to get a signature? If you can just kind of reverse engineer, how many people have I talked to? Cold approach. Under that pretense, so different pretense, you can be a superhero in anything, any sales job, any pickup, any of it.
Which was actually one of my main reasons why I got into petitioning. And it was funny because my brother was the one who found it on Craigslist. Yeah. But while I was doing it, I was like, okay, this is kind of fun. But my communications level was very low when I started petitioning. And my English had just become good enough where I could do something like that.
Really? When did you start speaking English, really?
Well, I've always spoken English, like, growing up. But, my mom and dad are Americans, but I grew up in Germany. So as soon as I went to elementary school, I stopped speaking English mainly. I was, like, mainly speaking German in school. Okay. So as soon as I moved over here, my German accent was thicker than, man.
Yeah, thicker than molasses, huh?
Yeah, it was really thick. Like, you might still hear it, actually.
Oh, yeah.
You say what?
Do you have any doubt about that?
About my German accent still being there?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes there's moments like where, like, so when you're out there for like 10 hours or 8 hours, most of the time it's like 6 to 8 hours. Yeah. There are moments where like your energy is just like, fuck, I've just gotten 30 people to sign within like these last 50 minutes or 60 minutes. So you're like kind of like tanked, for a minute. And then you kind of got to like, reorganize your brain so that you're not like, basically scattering your letters while you're speaking. Really, that's what it's like. Yeah. For me, at least. And
yeah.
What was I saying? So sometimes in those moments, my accent kind of will come out, right? And I guess that kind of makes me uncomfortable because, realistic, man, growing up, I've always been the American kid. Like in Germany, I was the American kid, right? Because my mom and dad were military. And I was always wearing like the American flag. And as soon as my brother went to Iraq with the U.S. Army, I was wearing probably my camo pants because he bought me like camo pants, like long pants. And I probably wore them like 6 days out of the week. And I washed them on Sunday just so I could wear them for school the whole time.
Okay. Yeah.
I probably harassed a bunch of people on the train just because I was pretending that I was in the military or something. That was kind of fun.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely. I've always detected your German accent from the very beginning, and I never thought it was a problem. I thought it was really cool. I like accents. And so talking for 6 to 8 hours a day about the petitioning, that's definitely a big vocal muscle that, you know, your ability to tune into that, if you can make an instrument out of your voice, like I was playing with, what's his name? Eric Tyler, who is Ghostwriter. Have you heard the didgeridoo? I was playing the didgeridoo with this guy that was here for 5-day residency, Eric Tyler from San Diego. He's good friends with Radovan. Radovan is one of your petitioners now, and we've had him on the show here. And
yeah, I know Eric very well. Or
yeah, cool.
Well.
Yeah, oh, nice. Yeah, so he was here, and we were playing the song, and it became obvious that the song of the music that we were playing, it was an extension of our conversation, that we would talk, and it was like the rhythm of our talking transformed into the rhythm of the music. It just like the exhales of talking became the exhales of playing. And the sound wasn't so dissimilar too. It was kind of the same. So, you know, when you're talking and you're petitioning, and then we'll get into this final little segment of the podcast, you have an opportunity more than most people. Like DC was saying the other day, he was like, he hears his thoughts in my sound. The sound of my voice he hears in his head for his own personal thoughts sometimes. And sometimes, and I've had this many times happen to me, if you listen to someone else talk more than you yourself talk for a long time, you take on their voice in your head a little bit. Especially then you put in emotions to that, and depending on if whatever emotions you were listening to that person's voice, later when you access that emotion, the sound will come up in your head. It's an anger energy. And so you have an opportunity by talking a lot, like someone that plays an instrument a lot, to hear the sound and the quality of the sound, like the sound as if, name every emotion, and each emotion has a unique sound of the voice.
Yeah.
And so there's a sound for each one. And there's how many emotions? So many. And there's more emotions than we even have names for. So there's so many nuances, little hues. If you could imagine like a color or a hue to your emotions, and it comes out in the hue of your voice. And by talking and hearing the sound of your own voice so much, to be able to play with how could your voice sound that pulled a person's attention in.
Yeah. You know what's funny, Chris?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, so my first campaign I worked was actually in Florida, right? And that was when I just started getting on the silent flute, when you were like teaching me like, breathing techniques and, like thinking from a different like emotion, right? Or like, and it was fun because I remember being in front of this DMV in Florida, and I would be like, okay, what if I was like a king? How would I approach this next person, right? And it was funny because I would like approach them like that, and it would actually work, you know?
Oh yeah,
but cool. Then also sometimes I overused it, and then it didn't work again, you know? So I was like, well, fuck, what do I have to do now?
Yeah, because it would be, how would the king respond when he's not accepted?
Yeah.
Then
that was the
end, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And one other thing I have to add, right? Growing up, right, and up until like the last 3 years, I sometimes I feel like it's still there, but it's become like, I feel like the genetic that's like, if there was the genetic that makes you shy or whatever, it's becoming dominated by the genetic in me that's like, that doesn't give a fuck.
Okay.
But in a way, I do give a fuck, you know, because I do care. So like I want to stay ethical, but at the same time, I don't want to give a fuck about retards, you know, dumb, unproductive voices, you know. And man, I gotta say, there were so many moments where if I had not studied the silent flute, like if I wouldn't have done yoga with Yogi Chris, fuck man, I would have gave up on petitioning like fucking 2 years ago. Guaranteed.
I believe it. That's really cool. I remember when you came to Miami and we were road tripping around Miami and you were petitioning while I was teaching yoga, and then you came to the workshops. It was really cool. The beach was right there, a lot of pretty women there. That was a really fun time. That was one of the times that a silent flute member had come to a yoga workshop. It was beginning online community with like in person. So it's super cool. Like this has happened with Cameron McGriff. I met him, and it happened with Pyro. It happened with Jordan DeMario. I don't know why these are all black guys. It happened with there's another black guy from it's like there's not that many black guys in IMC Nation, but the first 4 people that I met, what's the guy's name? It's right there. He was in Pennsylvania. He did a boot camp. He came live to a boot camp. It's not coming to me, but he's fallen back into Christianity since then, so that's weird to me. Anyway, I met a few people in person. I met a girl, Kat, came in person. But Johnny, I met Johnny in Texas, and you were the first. You were the first IMC guy that I ever met in person. And we were just around. My parents were there. I was around, and you messaged me because we were in a Facebook group or something. I said where I was. You saw where I was, my location or something. We met up, smoked a little pot, and juggled a soccer ball or something. And from there, silent flute apprenticing. So that's really cool. And, so it's really cool that the breathing, and because the silent flute and ninth limb is all about the expression of your experience. It's the communication, but it's the communication of 8 limbs. There's 8-limb path in yoga. Ninth limb is the expression of it. So it becomes the science of communication, the sound and all the qualities of your voice, and then the mindset. But how can I hack the body that's connected to this mind? Because it has a negative influence if I don't. Like that guy that came on that was arguing about masks, I guarantee he has issues about his weight because he looked pudgy. He has some concern about, no, he does. He has something about his body that's pulling his consciousness onto. He has an injury, or he was hurt, he was touched wrong. That, like, these things lock people into the opinions. And it's really body consciousness that if they became, that's what I think. But then I realized it wasn't just about yoga. Because I always thought if a person just did yoga, like Johnny, you're training yoga. Are you still doing your sun salutations?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're still doing your muscle activations?
Yeah, I did it this morning.
Fuck yeah, dude. That, like, because
my sun salutation has become fucking way better, man. I'm going to practice it later again today. I'm probably going to go to a park, or I wanted to go to this gym around here that there's like a gym around here, but I got to figure out a membership maybe. But yeah, they have a cool spot where you can do yoga and like all the burpees and all that for our workout. That it would be perfect.
Yeah.
Me and Adrian actually had a membership. I booked a room at the Ramada, and they had a free membership at the gym. And then this next week I kind of fucked up because I booked a different hotel, and now we don't have a membership. But
so it's interesting. So you really travel for the petitioning. You go like city to city, rent Airbnb or like a hotel or motel or whatever it is, and then you take your papers with you or your PDFs, and you go print out some new petitions, and you have a table, and you set up a table with a cloth, and you have your attire that signifies who you are. It symbolizes you. You got your beads maybe, and you just set up right where the traffic is, where the people naturally go, and you get there at the right hour and with the right energy, and you collect signatures, and then you hand in the signatures to somebody, and you get paid for some of them. Right now you're volunteering because you're so passionate about this fucker that is just handing out government jobs to his friends and family and not the people of merit, that are raising taxes on Californians so that he can sue the president, and just like probably hiring his friends for lawyers, and a lot of the money's just going to his wine collection, and who knows, he might be involved in Pizzagate and all the stuff we were talking about with Hillary Clinton. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure people know. I don't know, because I don't have time to research everybody. I just know that the guy comes on, if he has the view that I should wear a mask because of it, what if this, that, save somebody, show me, no sources, and you're just going to yell at me and try to get me emotionally wrapped up in what you're saying. I mean, I guess it's kind of brave to go on someone else's podcast and say, but he's really just like, there's no self-respect because there's no respect for me. This is how you approach somebody, but you don't have any respect. Like, here's how I would have done it. If I'd gone on somebody, which I wouldn't, because what a waste of time. But if I went on somebody's podcast and be like, I have a question about wearing masks. And I would have waited throughout the podcast, and then I would have answered when he gave me the voice to speak, and I would have asked questions the same way I asked him questions. And I would have tried to pigeonhole me into, I don't even know how you would rationalize that argument. It comes down to you're going to try to make me feel bad about the what if. And you got to really throw some good evidence at me and just first establish that I'm a good person, and that if you had the proper evidence that as a good person I would wear a mask. Confirm that I would wear a mask if 1 million people had died so far and it was like whatever. Just say if the number was high enough, if I could show you the actual data, because you just have data that you don't know about, right, Chris? I'd be like, yeah. He's like, you just saw it on like a website. Yeah, it was the government website, but the government lies sometimes, right, Chris? Yeah. And I'd be like, so if I could prove to you that those numbers were false and I actually have better numbers, would you be open to changing your mind? If he could get me to say yes to that, then all he has to do is present me with sources and say it in a way that at least convinces me for a moment, and I'm going to check out his sources. So the truth will be discovered as much as people have put it on websites and made videos about it. That's how you would get me to like change. So that's what I would do.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I like that. I like that whole approach.
Yeah, I guess saying it out loud, that's what I should have said to him, really. So if I presented you with credible data that you would agree was the right source, would you be open to this or that? Now, he came up with this thing about, other 94%, they developed those diseases having COVID.
Yeah.
So I can't prove or disprove that. It would just be, I'd be like, well, I mean, considering all of the other things that happened that totally discredited the numbers that were being reported, I have to say that fact is questionable. It would just be, so it would just come down to that, because I can't prove it, but they definitely reported flu deaths as corona deaths. They definitely have a lot of false positives for these COVID tests. They had a lot of misreporting of the COVID counts and the COVID deaths, like 100% COVID positive rates in Florida and whatever. Who knows where else that happened? And so there's so many examples of misreporting. There's so many examples of fake news, meaning they recycled news from Italy and India. They recycled news from other cities saying the hospitals were overflowing, but they weren't overflowing because people went there, and you can hashtag. So yeah, give sources, hashtag film your hospital movement, and see that the hospitals nowhere were really overflowing, that they were saying were overflowing, that they recycled news. So I have all these examples that say that I can't disprove what you're saying, but what I can definitely say is all of this other stuff was definitely false that agrees with that narrative. So that's going to be, you want me to, you're going to find something else if I finally disprove that. Like, we've disproven enough. Right. And to say that it's not a convenience, it would just have to come down to, that's an opinion, man. So.
Yeah, I guess that's where the impatient petitioner in me would have just been like, you know what? You can wear your mask, that's cool. But for me, man, we're all going to die anyways. What if I die tomorrow, I'm going to die.
Definitely, like, if you were out petitioning and you were talking, like a new person came on, like walked by and you interacted with that guy and they said, they got into the conversation about the masks, like or is that the example you're saying?
Well, oftentimes, actually, yesterday for the first time ever, I met a very conservative lady that wore her mask in her car. So I was like, okay, well, that's new. But she actually asked me about why I'm not wearing a mask. I was like, well, if someone really asks me to wear the mask, I'll wear it, But other than that, I mean, I'm not going to wear the mask when I'm outside.
As a petitioner, you're not wearing a mask?
Most of the time, no.
Yeah, that's rad.
Sometimes I just have it on me, I mean, there's older folks where like I'll like put it on like this, and then I'll ask them if they want me to wear it. I'll have it under my chin, just to make them more comfortable, because I know they're struggling with the whole debate thing in their mind too. They're probably somewhere in the middle on that conversation themselves. Well, is this mask real, or is this a free person? They don't
have Instagram. If it wasn't for Instagram and YouTube, then what are they going to do? And they're old, so they are literally the most at risk of whatever. So they have that legit reason to be scared. And they're so old that you just have to respect really what they want, because they want to do some crime, like I just respect somebody that's 20 or more years older than me. Like that's weird. You're so old, dude.
Yeah.
I'll walk away.
Yeah.
That important. I'll ask you to walk away. So,
actually,
okay.
now that you said that, I'm probably gonna like have my mask like closer to me from now on, just like kind of like this, you know.
I would
Like
just put it in my pocket. If you're already not wearing it, I would just have it in my pocket, and then if it seemed like from their body language, I would say, "Are you comfortable if I don't wear a mask, or would you like me to wear a mask?"
Yeah, I'm gonna start saying that more.
But I wouldn't put it to my face.
But you know, most of the times when I ask people if they want me to wear a mask, because you know, they say no. They're like, "No, man, you know, you're free here." And sometimes I'll have people come up to my table wearing the mask, and they're like, "Do I have to wear this mask here?" I'm like, "No, this is the freedom zone," you know.
Yeah. That's true.
And you know, I mean, if you look at the statistics, this is like kind of what I would have said to Brian, right? If you look at the statistics, and this is why I question everything the government is telling us. You look at the statistics about who survives COVID, and it's the people with strong immune systems, right? But they're closing parks. They're saying, well, during the shutdown, they were saying you can't go to the gyms. They were literally closing parks, like campgrounds.
Yeah.
Like there's no place where, you know, it kind of contradicted their whole pitch, you know, like the 6 feet apart and all that. And then Walmart is open, and they can sell like soccer balls and footballs, but Dick's Sporting Goods is not, you know. And there's just, for me, there were so many inconsistencies, which, you know, in a way led me first to be like, okay, this shit's fake, right? Now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, maybe it's real, but either way, it's over exaggerated. So that's kind of where I'm at.
You know? Yeah, you just got to define what is it. So it is some virus and whatever, but all of the propaganda about it and what to do about it. I mean, the whole story about it is false. So we need to wrap it up. I need to get on to the next thing. I really appreciate your time, Johnny Freedom Ranger. And they can find you on Instagram by the same name, one word, Johnny Freedom Ranger, JOHNNY Freedom Ranger. And if you're catching the recording to this, I should have said at the beginning, click subscribe and sign up for the newsletter. That link is in the bio or the description for, Spotify and iTunes and all that, YouTube. Thanks, everyone, for showing up live. I love the live audience. Thank you, Johnny. And I'll see you all on the next episode.
Namaste.